Chad, I got something. I saw something late last night that made me think of you.
Oh dear.
When I was laying in bed.
Is this a good thing or a bad thing?
All right.
I think it's a good thing. You know how you always bring up, you have this propensity to bring up Captain Planet.
It has come up once or twice, yep.
Yeah, once or twice. Did you know that Tom Cruise was originally planned to be the voice of Captain Planet and even recorded 2 or 3 episodes, but they were never released?
It's surprising that his career has turned out as well as it has, considering he never truly starred in such a prolific television show of the cartoon variety as Captain Planet. That's crazy. But he is the type of actor, I think, of the caliber of Captain Planet. So it does make sense.
Yeah, comes to mind.
Yeah, okay. I didn't know that. I did know that there were some big star names that have voiced characters in Captain Planet over the years, but I didn't know that Tom Cruise was in that mix. So shout out to Tom one time. Hope Scientology's doing well. Hope it's a strong religion, and hope you're still killing it out there, Mr. Cruise. One of my best friends. I'll give him a call on the weekend, I think.
Looking forward to Top Gun 3.
Probably. Is there going to be a Top Gun 3?
God, one can only hope.
Probably the best, I was going to say action hero, but what's the better term? Yeah, but action movie star.
Hero? Action hero?
Action hero movie star of our time. The stunts that guy does is fucking incredible. The next thing he has to do is, move from Astralis to NIP and play with LNZ and ZTR.
I thought you were going to say something crazy, like go to the moon or something. But yeah, you've actually spoken something that's not in this world either. So
I want to, see him go ahead and do that. Chad, how annoyed are you that you had to turn off the stream to do this podcast now?
I haven't streamed it all today. I haven't turned it on.
You haven't? Really?
No, not today. Well, the games aren't really capturing me today, unfortunately. I looked at the matches. So we had Heroic Complexity again with Saw standing in for Dexter. And then we had Astralis versus Falcons, which could have been all right, but I had some calls. I was on the phone with Frank, and then I was chatting and playing some DayZ and stuff with Rush and Harry. And then FaZe versus NIP. I'm like, and then Na'Vi versus Big. None of them are really getting me hugely excited. I'm watching them as we speak, but they're not like, I don't want to sit there. I don't think I could be entertaining while those games are on, which is why I've had Harry and Jason and other people come and be the fucking clowns on the show for me, so I can just sit there and take the subscription money and fight the work mind virus.
Yo, Harry's a great sidekick. He's like a great streaming sidekick, isn't he?
He's fantastic. He's got a soundboard. It's popping off at all times.
So
starting a new podcast called Clutch
you're
and Chuckles
telling
with
me
him.
You're telling me tomorrow for the G2 game you could get Harry to be there and I'll come on and we will watch G2 together?
Yeah, but you have to know that there's very little conversation about the actual game. There's a lot about horses.
Horses were big yesterday.
Horses were massive. It's essentially EPL is what we're doing. Or the No Blast Club, as I think it was branded at some point.
I mean, that's I'm used to that. People just talking about whatever, and there's a G2 game on, and I'm the only one in the background. Just for fuck's sake, like, can you please just can we do this faster and all of that? So, I think
when's their game? Is it first?
I think 5 p.m. or no, wait. Yeah, it's 5 p.m.
Yeah, you're right. It is 5 p.m. Tomorrow has some decent matches. Like actually, all
Without
day.
Without the Astralis is good. No, Spirit Complexity is not good. But from
it's
that
better
point
than
on,
fucking Spirit Heroic with Saw standing in.
True that.
True. Yeah.
So wait, Chad, just before we get into the nitty gritty, like you're telling me like you don't watch the Olympics at all? That's not a thing for you?
No, I care very little about the Olympics.
Bro, I shared this on Instagram the other day. It was like an image from The Sopranos where they're like cheering about something. And it's like me when my country wins a medal does well at the Olympics in a sport I've never heard of before,
Like curling.
Yes. Well, curling is actually like kind of, we've all seen curling in our day. We are the generation that had like, well, at least in Europe, Eurosport and stuff like that, which used to show all kinds of sports at different times. Like, for example, for a while I was really into ski jumping Is that how you call it? Because it was like on TV at the time that I was supposed to be like studying, and I'm like studying and keeping an eye on it, and I'm watching Janne Ahonen from Finland, you know, just fucking fly in the air. It was so mental to me. Like, these people are actually willingly like going down this slope on skis, accelerating, and then flying like 100 meters through the air, and then just, you know, are
Landing?
yeah, no, but are fucking judged on how well they land. It's like, bro, just landing is a fucking, you know, it's a massive success. Let me bring this down a little bit. All right. You know, so that was wild to me as a like 14-year-old being able to experience that. And then you know, if it's late enough, you switch to MTV and you see Jackass on TV and you're like, these guys are just fucking, what the fuck am I watching?
Essentially, a form of Jackass is the Winter Olympics, I would say.
Because you know,
the least
like,
popular Olympics.
Right now, I was at Slava before this. I mentioned this to you guys before. You don't remember it. It's fine. We're not going to get into it. But, you know, we're like chilling, talking, eating, drinking, whatever. And then it's like on the TV, it's the Olympics and some you know, it's female judo, some weight class. It's like, who cares? But it's because it's the Olympics and there's a Serbian representative in it. We're all like watching and cheering and hoping for success. Here's a kind of fucked up piece of information for you. Serbia is, I think, the 5th highest in the world by how much money we give to people who win a medal at the Olympics. You get, if you win a gold medal at the Olympics for Serbia, you get 200,000 euro.
Damn.
Oh, sweet.
Meanwhile, that's pretty damn good.
The US is at 37,000.
Yeah, but the US.
So take that, Jason.
Well, we gotta hand out a lot of gold medals, you know.
So what, you don't have more money than Serbia to do that?
No, dude, it's all in the military. We don't got a budget for Olympic gold medals.
Yeah, I'm familiar.
That's
with
why
that.
Phelps was smoking weed.
Yeah.
Oh,
he's just having a good time.
That was probably the biggest theft in recent Olympics history, because the year that Phelps won all those fucking medals in one discipline, he was going up against a Serbian dude, Čavić. And there's even a photo, if you Google it, there's a photo where you can clearly tell our guy touches the fucking wall earlier, right? But they gave it to Phelps over because that was the last race, the last discipline, and he needed it to like break the record for most medals in a single Olympics, right? So they gave it to him under some bullshit pretense that you need to like touch the wall with a certain amount of force for the computer to register it as you that you finish the race. So that was like the excuse. Our guy didn't touch it with enough force, even though he was there first. Isn't that the fucking point of the race? Like, who gets there first? But never mind. So Phelps gave it. So it's all a fraud. Also, the fact that swimming has 100 disciplines, like all this shit, it should be just, you know, like, bro, who can swim faster? Swim however you want, you know. But that's a whole different
breaststroke, backstroke,
all the strokes.
We've got freestyle. We've got 50 meter, 150
butterfly.
meter. Yeah, butterflies in the mix there. Look, swimming's obviously very big in Australia, and I think the Americans recently at this Olympics were like, "Why the fuck are we losing to all the Aussies?" We used to be the GOAT swimmers before America had Phelps. We had a guy called Ian Thorpe.
Yeah, I remember
Torpedo.
him.
No one would fuck with him. He was out there.
Torpedo? That's awesome.
Yeah, he was smashing it back in the day. But I've seen a lot of Australians have been winning medals in the pool, which is not surprising because we are girt by sea, gentlemen. Just that's in our national anthem.
I think I saw a little
national anthem.
No, but we sing that we are girt by sea, which just essentially means surrounded by.
Yeah, but
I think I saw a little clapback
from
Phelps
stupid.
today. Phelps? What's he clapping back about?
He said something like he thinks
this motherfucker has a man bun. Like, get me the fuck out. You're 40
He said something
years
that he
old.
could if he gave him 4 years, he could come in and win like the 100-meter gold medal. He was like, I was swimming faster times 8 years ago than people are today.
Apparently,
yeah, sure. I mean, if you listen, Jason,
bit.
if you're cheating, like, you may as
smoking
well.
weed.
Yeah, helping his lungs.
They even had those pedo suits, I think, that year that were banned after that because they were giving too big of an advantage or whatever the fuck.
I remember we had a runner like Kathy Freeman. I remember she was wearing one of those suits for the running, right? Obviously, it makes you less resistant to either the pool or the air. There's so much stuff in sport. Everyone's looking for that little edge, just like Snap Tap. Just to bring it full circle. But no, guys, just a little. I guess we have to make a note right now. Slava that Yanko mentioned, for those of you playing at home who might be interested, is an Orthodox Christian celebration of a family's patron saint day in Serbia. Slava is a family's annual ceremony, and anyway, yeah, you guys can look it up if you're interested. Just wanted to get that in there on the record. China currently leading the medal tally, followed by the US of A.
And the interesting thing is that we are Orthodox Christian as well as Greeks, Russians, Ukrainians, and all and so on. But we're the only ones who do this. No other
keeping up with the old ways.
Do it, like we just love to make another excuse to overeat and drink and whatnot. I'll say one more thing, because the Olympics is funny, right? It's such a big event, right? So we had this commentator, was pretty famous, and he was doing the Olympics, the athletics and track and field, which is not really popular in Serbia at all. We're big on basketball, volleyball, tennis only after Djokovic came.
You guys got a water polo, right?
Yeah, we're fucking... Actually, this year we suck, but in the last 20 years, we were really good. So when Usain Bolt was, the hot shit, and he was... can't even remember which Olympics it was, but I think probably his last that he was competing at, and that he won and broke the world record again or something like that. And this guy is like, run, Yusa, run. And then he wins, and he's like, yes, and he's saying shit like, yes, against all odds, against the fucking doping lobby and all the cheating, and he lost his mind, literally. He was cheering more for this guy than he was if it were a Serbian racing. But I don't know, it's something about, I also like to watch, for example, the 100-meter sprint, right? Some shit, when the Olympics comes around, you don't watch shit at all, but you tune into some of that stuff. That's kind of interesting.
Can I ask a dumb question? How do you watch the Olympics, Yanko, in Serbia?
It's on our, BBC, the national broadcaster has the rights for it.
Sure. I'm sure there's probably a channel here in Malta, but I don't have, access to the television. And
I don't have cable.
Yeah, and I was talking to Rush about this. He was like, oh, I'd have to watch it, and then he'd have to use a VPN because he'd want to watch the UK broadcast being in Germany or whatever. So I can't even watch it. I just read about the controversy online because the Australian news sites that I go to, it's like Australians robbed in Paris, or there's people are moving out of the Olympic Village and shit that's there.
Or because it's ass. It's cardboard beds, food is terrible, all this kind of shit.
Yeah, we've spoken about this before, but I reckon
there's a lot of fucking going on at the Olympic Village, I'll tell you that.
Well, yeah, in multiple ways, more ways than one.
I remember in Brazil, they were handing out condoms to all the participants, to try to keep them safe. All these use protection guys.
Fit young adults just banging.
Yeah, what'd you expect?
Could be a great reality TV show.
Maybe it'd be a good way for them to make some money. Or everyone becomes Serbian so they can get 200 grand. Because you've had one medal and it's a gold medal.
That's wild, because we won at and I don't even know how do you say it in English? It's 10-meter pistol, it's shooting, which the US sucked at, Jason. I don't know how, but you should be ashamed of yourself. It's the one where the Turkish
I'll bring it up.
The Turkish guy came because it was mixed doubles, right? A guy and a girl. And I think Turkey was second. It was that guy that everyone's memeing about. They just showed up without anything, and it's just shooting. Did you see that?
I've seen it. Yeah.
Yeah, that was the discipline. And they won first. They won gold, and they got 200K each.
That Korean chick became a lesbian icon overnight.
Why? Because she had a gun, or?
I guess she looked fucking hot in all of her shooting gear. She had that little eyesight. No, she's not actually. I think she's married with a kid. But the fucking lesbian community loved her. They just like the vibe, the energy coming off her from her little strut when she's aiming the shot. Fair play.
Yeah.
What can
of course, we don't give a flying fuck about this whole Olympic news for esports. Who cares?
Yeah, we just had ours, the Esports World Cup, Yanko.
Hell yeah. Absolutely. Alaikum assalam.
They're going to run the Esports World Cup and the Esports Olympics at the same place.
Oh, okay. Are they still going to bother running the Esports World Cup when they're running the Esports Olympics?
I have to imagine the answer to that is no.
Just do one in the summer and the other in the winter.
Yeah, they'll find a way to make up for it, I imagine.
Well, yeah, because the video games get paid. We have very different games for winter and summer.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, fucking hell.
How was your first experience being a Liquid fan, Chad?
The first one was good. The second one, not so good.
A little bit more stressful.
I know that they won in the second game, but they didn't look very good. Actually, that's not true. Twist and Naf look very good. Ultimate has potential, I would say. There's moments where he gets caught off guard a little bit and it looks a little bit silly, but obviously this is his first time playing Tier 1. But in terms of some of the rounds, and he looks good on the rifle as well, they definitely allowed him to go for a lot of aggressive picks, so I thought that was pretty good. The fact that they did better on the T side than the CT side is perplexing to me. Justin had a fucking stinker against Na'Vi. He had a decent first series, however, so props for that against VP. I won't say good, I'll just say decent. And Yakinda's had some moments where he's actually been able to get entry kills on the T side and help make impact in rounds. So overall, they've won 2 series, but it essentially equates to nothing because of the format of this event. Yeah. And I am a realist, and this event also, obviously, for teams of the honeymoon or trying to make first impressions means a lot, but for the type of opponents they're taking on, like a Na'Vi, I think for VP it's a bit more important, but for Na'Vi, it's not that this isn't important, but, you know, it's just a fucking qualifier.
I think it's always a great feeling for a new squad to... Obviously, they won both games. I mean, even if they lost the Na'Vi series, they would still feel good about themselves. Like, it sucks to lose, but it would be like, hey, we were right there. He's the #1 team in the world. And I like the interview I think Mythar gave, where it's like, listen, our expectation, we're just trying to replicate the stuff that we're doing in practice, you know, stick to our game plan, like the ideas that we have about how we see the game, protocols, all that stuff, because that's all you want to see. You don't want to see all of a sudden in an official players act and behave and do things differently than they do in practice, right? Because what's the fucking point of that? You know, makes no sense. Just before, just real quick, God bless. This is the last time we'll see this fucking format, right? Because it's bullshit that Liquid or even G2, I mean, any team that's done it, Spirit is in the same boat. Like, you win 2 games in a 14 group and you're not #1 in the group. You're not even fucking qualified yet. Because now Liquid can beat, Na'Vi can beat Big, play Liquid, beat Liquid now, second time around, right? And then they're the #1, they're in the fall finals. And Liquid has to play one more series against someone to qualify. Like, that's bullshit. It should be job done for them. And I fucking remember, bro, I was in FaZe when this thing was first added, this last game, this like, because in 2019 or 2020, whenever they changed this first, it was 4-team GSL groups. So you had this extra winners game. Like, you had opening games, then you had the winners game, the elimination game, and then you had the last game where you won the winners game, and then you still had to play one more game against the team from the lower bracket. And if they beat you, then they would be #1, you would be #2 in the group. Which doesn't make any sense, because let's say what I said happens where Na'Vi beats Big and Na'Vi beats Liquid. Na'Vi beat Liquid once, Liquid beat Na'Vi once, but Na'Vi is first and qualified, right?
Yeah.
What's the reason? You can do that only if you give Liquid a 1 map up in a best of 3, which people will say is too much, but it's not if they've beaten them already. Like, to me, that's fair, because Na'Vi shouldn't get that opportunity to begin with in the first place, but they do okay. You want to add that one more game because they need to fill the schedule. They want the fucking minutes watched and all this fucking crap. And then, okay, if you need to win 2 maps in a row to be able to be 1 step ahead of them. Even that I don't like. Like, I would hate it if I were on a team. And I raised the question because we were in this meeting and they were like going over slides, and it was just this game. It was like the F game, you know? And I'm like, wait, go back a slide. What is this game? So if I win a game, now I have to play again? Like, how is that fair? And they were like, this and that and blah, 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 blah. Some, you know, bullshit excuses or whatever. I'm like, that's bullshit. Like, it's not fair for the team that won the first time around.
There's no advantage. Maybe
and then I wonder, what the fuck are these orgs doing, or team managers? I don't know who, you know, that responsibility lies with, that they're just okaying all this shit. Why are they not going ahead and saying, no, we do not agree to this?
Because they're getting the money.
Come up with a different fucking format.
Boys,
like,
can we not do a format? We just did like an entire episode on formats last time around.
It's okay.
This is a world record.
No, it's okay.
Until the cows come home.
This was just me venting. And as I said, fuck it. It's the last time we'll see it, so be gone. Shitty format.
So one more thing to celebrate at Slava.
Yeah.
The patron saint of formats.
Exactly.
152 days until the end of the year, gentlemen. That would spell the end of the partner leagues.
Yes. And for Liquid as well, I actually did catch a couple of their games. What I like the most about Ultimate is that he fucking doesn't get hyped, which sounds a little bit weird, but I like that he doesn't get too excited, about shit. He's just like sort of playing. He has that. He smiles fucking less than JKS, which is a feat in its own right.
JKS and NAF combined.
And you can tell that he performs the best when he's able to sort of like re-peak and be aggressive, and he doesn't get punished for it. And kind of in this, when the round breaks down a little bit, and becomes a little bit more puggy, which makes complete sense. Or when he's in the clutch, when it's just, him and the situation is kind of known. And
he had those two stone cold clutches back to back as well. That was huge.
I think he's done great for his debut event. And Liquid looked good for the most part. I think T-side Inferno was a little bit lacking. They were bailed out by those clutches from Ultimate.
Yeah, really I don't think they were the better team against Na'Vi across that series.
Yeah, and NAF obviously with a couple of rounds here and there. I don't know what got into him with the Mac 10.
Oh my
throughout
god,
the series.
But those swings were fucking wild, bro. Some of them were nuts.
I think that was the final round on Inferno. That was the one where he was like lurking A, right? And they got back. Was that the final round? Yeah, I think that's like a great example of the impact that the lurk on T side, like that T side anchor can have, when it's an experienced player, just by sort of taking space. He didn't get any kills yet when they were making the call to go back, right? But he took I
actually didn't even think he took enough space on that play. That actually worried me a little bit.
Because you had a round, I think they lost a 5v4 round earlier in the half where they got an entry wherever, I think in Banana during the Banana fight or something. And they just kind of wanted to end B relatively quickly. I mean, there was still like 45, 50 seconds left. And they just grouped 5 Banana to execute B, and Navi stacked B and they got wrecked, right? Like that's why you want to leave that guy in apps so he can either search for some space first, and if he gets contact, then you go with 4 players, or he can just scout. You can start faking, come back. Like if it's a player like Nav who's experienced, he can get a good read on what the situation is, if they're there or not, whatever, based off the utility used, the sound that he hears, and so on. So I think that's something that those rounds look a little bit bad from the outside, but that's also something that Twists, just in game leading for the first time, will get a feel for as the game. I
actually thought he looked, his T side, or I think him calling looked much better than I expected it to in these opening 2 games. Like I didn't expect it. He seemed to have a really good control of that team in terms of like when they're pausing, when they're being patient, and obviously it's a team-wide thing. Like someone's going to call it, so everyone has to follow it. But I mean, the fact that you put 9 rounds on T-side Anubis on Na'Vi, 8 rounds T-side Inferno, like they got bailed out by some good plays. But I mean, Twist had some good reads, and like especially the early stages of Inferno, he like outcalled some of the stacks Na'Vi was coming in with in the early stages of that half. But I mean, credit where it's due. I didn't expect it to look like that. It looked better than I was initially thinking coming into it. I thought it would be way more struggles, way more disorganization, and it looked solid.
Yeah, their first series against VP, I think for me that was just better overall CS from them. But does that say more about VP? I don't know. You have to think about the matchup as well, and then again, what the series means for everybody. But I thought that they would be better on the CT side. But on the CT side of Mirage and the CT side of Inferno, it was actually really worrying watching them as individuals rarely get multi-kills or like start sprays or fights that they wouldn't be winning. And I was like, it's not like they're in bad positions in quite a few of those fights. So that was a little bit worrying for me. Because like Justin really had a bad series against Na'Vi. That was like, dude, how fucking good is Bit? Like whatever has happened with Bit, he is fucking like nuts now. I think before, when he was in the Na'Vi roster with Simple and Electronic and Perfecto, you just have to say those names and you think about the type of cast around him. Now, that's a completely drastic like change compared to the players around him now. Obviously, experience level and what those players are expected to deliver in the server. And Bit's playing these extremity positions, and he looks so comfortable and confident in taking these fights, and his aim is fucking nuts. Like, watching Bit play at the moment is an absolute pleasure. It's really nice to watch. I hope he keeps up that form because he's doing such a good job in some of these. I think I think Kadian spoke about this on the desk. Was him AWPing on the CT side of Anubis because his aim is so good, and he missed a couple of sitters when he was AWPing A on Anubis, and they came in towards the site. So I think that was a bit of a concern, or at least a question that the desk was discussing. But yeah, I think Na'Vi will win today's game against Big, and then they will probably win the rematch, because I didn't even love the way that the veto worked out for the Liquid Na'Vi game. Liquid banned Vertigo. No, actually, Liquid removed Nuke. Oh shit, oh dear. Okay, crikey. I don't know what to think of that.
You don't like that?
Well, that means that if they're not happy with their Nuke, which is fair enough because it's more of a technical map, then they'll have to likely play Mirage against Na'Vi again. And Jason, that was that was a non-starter of a game.
But you leave that if you're Liquid, and you're like, you probably aren't scared to go back to it, because you're just you probably feel more like you sucked on an individual level. You were like, not only were we outplayed, but we were outplayed because we sucked so bad individually that we couldn't put a stop to anything.
They couldn't even shoot back, it felt like, in a lot of the rounds. Like, they were just getting absolutely destroyed.
Yeah.
Like, pulled apart.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's, I guess, one of the limitations, too, of like this early going of the roster, is how deep is the map pool is always a question. And like you said, Nuke is probably one. I think Nuke's going to be an important one for them to be good on. It seems like a really important map to have in your pool at the moment.
Yeah, well, obviously, Ancient, Anubis, Dust 2, that's kind of similar map pool as what we're talking about with G2 last episode we did.
Yeah. I think also, just for the Na'Vi talk, it's crazy how much the CT side is letting them down. You know, like, you have no doubts for them, like, that they can win a lot of rounds on T side, but you also have no confidence that they will close it out on CT. What was it on? Let me open this on Anubis. Yeah, they got it was 8-4 T side, and they couldn't win 4 rounds on CT side. And then again, it was 7-5 as T on Inferno, and they lost 8-4 again. So, I mean, on one side, yeah, it's shitty. On the other side, if they can just figure it out a little bit and just improve that CT side by a little bit.
I wonder if they'd change the way they played their CT side on Inferno against Liquid if they get the rematch, because the series yesterday was like, it felt very gambly from Na'Vi. Not gambly, I shouldn't say gambly, but they were stacking bomb sites. It felt like they were always in like a weird money situation where they would want to kind of overstack one bomb site with an extra player off a read. And Twist outcalled it a little bit at the start, and then Na'Vi kind of got in the swing of it and had a couple nice stacks. But I think down the stretch, it kind of bit him with how much they were shifting and over-rotating to certain sides of the map. So I wonder if, having played against Liquid now and getting a better feel for their timings and what they're doing, and being able to see the demo, they're going to change that up a little bit.
Well, no, prep is huge, right? The fact that not being able to prep for this team other than one series of 2 maps, and of that series, you didn't play either of the maps in your series. So, right, you're doing your best at piecing together what you'd expect to be happening. And at the moment, for the top level Counter-Strike teams, playing nameplate Counter-Strike is a big deal. So I think when they go in, and if they have a very similar map pool, then they'll be much better equipped to deal with it. And then that's where we'll see how exposed Liquid can get because of the short amount of time together. I think it's like a huge, and this is where I think the format discussion, and not one I want to get stuck into, does a team like Liquid a really bad service, because now if they go in and they get blown out across the series, and then you look at Mirage as well on top of that as a standalone in the previous one, it's like, okay, well, fuck. But if they just won yesterday and then they didn't have to play them again, they could maybe ride a bit of confidence, but that confidence might just get completely fucking shattered. And I know that they've said that this is like a slow process. You're not just expecting to win straight away because of a few of the personnel changes with Twist in game leading and Ultimate in Tier 1, Justin returning since October last year or whatever it is. But still going into Cologne, everybody wants to go in there trying to win, and they have caliber of players where they could get a decent run. I'm not saying they're going to win the thing, but they could make it dent, especially with FaZe struggling at the moment. Like some of the names are looking a little bit shaky. So it's still quite open, I would say. I reckon, but like I said, I reckon Na'Vi beat Big and then Na'Vi beat Liquid, and then we all forget about the first series they played against.
This happened to them the last 2 times or 3 times. People were tweeting at me like, I think last 2 times they also started 2-0 in groups, and then they lost the next 2 games. They didn't make the finals. They went to the showdown.
Yeah, and that's possible because like the level of opponent over the next 2 days is going to be fucking the big dogs. Not little dogs.
Yeah, and they've lost that. I mean, even Kerrigan said they've lost that kind of killer edge in those big games at the moment. It's still looking shaky. I actually think it'd be kind of cool if we can pivot a little bit to Astralis, actually, just because I think it's kind of interesting that they're maybe 3-4 months further along in the timeline than Liquid is, where you have a star player turned into an in-game leader.
Disappointed me.
Yeah, the hype has certainly mellowed out. It feels.
I was driving the train. I was up the front there, tooting the horn. I had the fucking hat on. I was loading it with coal. I was the guy.
Had your little black and white cap on. Fucking shoveling.
And now I
shit.
look at it, and I don't know. I don't know why they're struggling so much. I don't know what I can identify about the game that isn't working for them. But obviously they beat Falcons today. But they lost the first map, Dust 2, in overtime. Then they blew them out on Ancient, and then Nuke was also 13-9. But Falcons were starting to work their way back into things on the CT side. So they've beaten Falcons twice, which isn't a team that we consider to be good. No offense to Falcons fans out there, but there's no way this roster, unless they win every fucking event between now and the end of the season, will be together next season. And then the Vitality game, it really didn't look like Astralis was putting up too much resistance at all. I think Dust 2 got close. I don't remember the scoreline, but it didn't feel like there was a crazy amount of resistance. And they picked Nuke, I believe, and which I thought was surprising. I thought they were going to lean into Vertigo. Fuck Vertigo, man. No one's playing it. Even Complexity didn't re-pick it when they played against Heroic again today. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know, man.
Yeah, I was trying to catch some of the Astralis game earlier today, the rematch against Falcons, and it just I don't really know how to pinpoint it either, but it doesn't seem like there's like all that strength that they had when this first all began. It seems like everyone's kind of dropped a little bit individually.
Yabby looks real sharp in moments. Like he looks fucking crisp. He has these really nice, like impactful moments. Maybe the conversation really was always about Stown, and maybe still is. But I don't know. Bro's the supportive element, so what are we expecting from him, right? As long as he's doing his job. Maybe then Stare, I guess, is the third rifler that we're looking for impact from. I don't know how he's been doing.
I mean,
is he doing all right?
This last game,
he did okay in the series today, at least.
Really up there in the 2 maps that they won. I didn't get to see any of the Astralis' games that they played yet, so can't really say on the way they've been looking. But what happened with them, they started off really strong, and then but they were playing like 4 maps or 5 maps, and then when they started playing Mirage is when they were losing on the map. So all of a sudden, like, people maybe saw a weakness that they could exploit, and then that became a problem for them in some of the best of 3s, and that's where they started struggling a little bit. So now, after the break, obviously being able to put in work and practice on not just Mirage, but other maps as well. It seems like Ancient is their home turf, right? Like, that's their pick. Yeah. Anytime it's available, we'll just have to see. This is a nice little warm-up tournament for them. And then in Cologne, obviously, every team is hoping to showcase what they're capable of and go as deep as humanly possible.
Yeah. Cologne is the first tournament you want to peak at in this second season, I guess, in theory.
You know what's interesting? G2 are picking a lot of Ancient, right? mouz like Ancient. Astralis clearly like Ancient a lot. Vitality don't play it. So there's a lot of teams who are enjoying playing Ancient. It's a good biff map. I like it. There's a lot of teams, like even the
Mongols. It's turned into a really good map.
It's great. I think you can get really good, like really exciting games on it. The way that the retakes and everything can play out, it's good fun. But yeah, I've been
No, go ahead.
I was gonna say I've just like been watching these games, which is great because it's giving me something to do, and I just have to make sure that I remind myself and I don't get caught up in too much of the madness because we have to. Well, I don't know if we have to, but I try to measure this with the context of what it means for each of these teams. So the results aren't made the same for everybody, right? But why Vitality having like such a strong showing, right, against Astralis? I asked myself, is it because there's not a lot of pressure? Would a team like Vitality feel pressure in an event like this that is essentially just a qualifier, and if they don't get it, then they just play showdown? Or is it the type of opponent they're playing against? Do Astralis, does that like say a lot about Astralis being pretty fucking rubbish? Because like today's series close, a loss to Vitality. Maybe Astralis must just fucking suck. That must be the answer.
Well, I think it also probably isn't that deep either. Like Vitality is a team that we know has some pretty crazy peaks when everything clicks and works together. And then they also are pretty inconsistent.
Ceiling, right?
Yeah, but like maybe this is one of the good days where they came in and everyone was in a good mood and communication was a little bit better, and they just caught some momentum with all the winning that they were doing in the rounds, and it just kept flowing and kept going, and they didn't really have to work for that kind of energy or that kind of flow state together. You know, like you have games where it just you step into the server and all five of you are just in the same attitude, same fucking wavelength, and everything fucking clicks.
But they could have been 2-0'd by Gamer Legion, right? Like that's this is where it's like, what? They could have lost that Anubis game. They did lose that Anubis game, and then it was the Mirage game that went overtime.
Yeah.
And that was they like had to dig really deep. That's where Spinks was having a huge showing, right? Yeah, he was going off. It's already been so many days.
And you know they probably
that's how you know the fucking games don't matter as much. If Spinks is having a huge fucking game, you know no one's feeling pressured, you know.
But you also know after that game, they had like a big team talk, right? Like Apex sat him down and was like, what the absolute fuck, boys? Like, what is this? We can't ever have this kind of a...
I feel like he does that after every series.
Yeah.
Yeah, potentially. But like someone's having the big boy conversation of like, this is not how, like, we just had a shitty EWC. This is not how we can actually fucking start here at Blast. And everyone came in today with that in mind, and it all worked.
Yeah. Well, I guess we've seen everybody play, but we still don't have the final results of all the groups, and we will get more of an overlap come Sunday, right, where things get mixed up a little bit regarding the format and who's going to be playing who.
I think...
But, yeah.
Sorry. I was just
going to say, do you have like a clear front runner for Cologne?
No.
Like, I'd say Na'Vi because they're world number one, right? I'm going to say that they're the favorite. I'm saying that. That you guys can disagree, that's fine, but they're the on-paper favorite. But in terms of the type of Counter-Strike, I can't build a case. This is another thing that we've spoken about before is like this team can beat this team, but they lose to this team.
Na'Vi is the favorite unless they have to play Spirit. Because Spirit puts them in their pocket every single time. But Na'Vi puts G2 in their pocket, and G2 just beats Spirit, so you have this weird triangle there. And that, for me, probably is the three favorites. The only reason being that FaZe doesn't seem to be
working at the moment
on the level where you consider them a contender, a favorite every time they're in a tournament, and Vitality just falls apart in like a crucial moment every time.
I'll tell you though,
I don't trust their players on a stage as big as Cologne. I just don't trust their players outside of Zyvo and Apex. You know that
I'll tell you this, Yanko. You look at the format for Cologne, right? Oh, sorry, not the format. You look at the groups for the main stage in Cologne. And one of them now, with the way this is shaped up, looks a lot tougher than the other, right? Na'Vi, Spirit, and G2, and then Astralis is the fourth within that. But yeah, whatever. Then you look at the lower one; it's mouz, who are great within the group stages. Then you've got VP, who just shit the bed massively against Big last night.
The fuck,
FaZe, who are a bit wishy-washy, and Vitality the same.
Yeah, exactly. I mean. And also the play-ins are always interesting, right?
This is best of three.
You have Liquid is in the play-in. Teams like the
Liquid's
Mongols,
first game against Pain is going to be rough.
Furia is playing Imperial, right? Heroic is there if they ever field a fucking full roster.
Yeah, that's a problem now, isn't it? That's an issue now.
Yeah, but I mean, you have a guy like Monesi. He's there at every single event, you know. So what could possibly be so much different about Dexter?
Dexter's first name?
All right. I mean, if that really is the case, then I don't know.
I don't know. I read that in a Reddit thread today, or it was on HLTV or one of the two, and they were talking about the issue with Heroic, and they were saying like, Dexter's first name is Abdul, and he's from, where's he from? Like, I know he's Russian, but like,
Dagestan.
Yeah, exactly. And then someone was like, and there was recently, I don't know if any of this is true. I didn't vet it. So I was like, and there was recently like a terrorist activity or something there. I'm like, well, Jesus Christ, like what the fuck is going on? Do we have like the NCIS or CSI or like someone filling out a full fucking report right now on this guy? Like, Jesus. I think that he did put out a statement regarding it. I saw something online.
Follow him? That's strange.
No, I don't follow him.
You soft block him as well?
I think he blocked me. I think
he didn't have any kind of statement. He just said, "I just feel really sorry for my teammates." Didn't say anything about why. This is not something that we can control. Feels really bad to miss first game after break when you were working really hard for that. Wish my teammates good luck in first match.
So this is from like one of these fucking weird Twitter
Random
accounts, right?
Okay,
this is CS2 News _EN. So guys, take this as you will. Dexter's statement about missing the tournament. This is the first time in my career that I'll miss a tournament due to a visa issue. I thought he missed Dallas because of a visa issue.
I'm not sure.
Anyway, for my part, I did everything as quickly as possible, but new rules have appeared, and now to get a visa, you must be approved by 6 countries instead of 1. I haven't received confirmation from 1 country for about a week now. So yesterday I sat from the opening of the visa center until the evening for 8 hours with a suitcase to fly right away, but nothing happened.
Holy shit.
So, yeah.
That's a long fucking day.
Yeah, and just to sit there with not knowing what your fate's going to be. So,
oh, that sucks.
Yeah, but it is a real problem now, right? Like if he can't make it to Cologne,
he's played at fewer tournaments than they've attended.
They may as well just kept Nikodos, right? I think Dex is a better player, but at least Nikodos can play.
Yeah, can be at the events. Yeah, that's shit. I guess we'll find out. But these plans, I mean, they have some interesting matchups if you go down it. I think Eternal Fire Falcons has a little bit of interest to it.
Let's not get there just yet. You know,
okay.
If we're going to get into Cologne a little bit later. I mean, you guys were talking about FaZe. They're 1-0 down against NIP in this game, and they're losing on their own map pick as well now on Inferno.
And you were talking about Orpa's not going crazy. Was that directed at Wrinkle, Yanko?
Yeah. I mean, more. It's not that I'm not his fan. It's like he's going really ham as you know, it's fine. That's just how people are like. But me personally, I prefer it when a player is more towards the laid back side of things than just going super crazy all the time, right? Because as someone who's newer, right, it's sometimes difficult to manage those emotions, and you will get really hyped when things are going well and it will be amazing. But then when things are not going well, there's this propensity to shut down or, you know, go into a shell almost. And you don't want that. You know, obviously as a coach, you want as much consistency as possible, right? Like you'd rather your guy doesn't have insane moments, but he hits the sort of shots he needs to hit consistently, right? Because you can work around that, you can plan around that, you can build rounds around that, right? When it's really unpredictable, well then, you know, what can you say? What can you do about that? So yeah, but I think he is, you know, a good pickup for NIP, and obviously this is the first time in a long time that NIP is actually looking decent and has a roster that makes sense for the most part, you know, and that their fans have something to look forward to at the very least.
I think if you're NIP, you're probably excited to have the problem of learning how to be successful. I think I would almost go the other way and be like, get fucking crazy, Wrinkle. Dude, go nuts, whatever you want. Like, I'd rather struggle at this point if you're NIP with learning how to ride success and be level headed than try and shut that down.
I don't think that works because there's only Rez there, of course, out of anyone. Everyone else is different. Like there's 4 different players and a different coach, so they don't feel any of that stigma that NIP has on them as an org, right? Like, why would they care? They just came there play. Like they don't give a fuck about that stuff. And you can tell, I think, some of the the fingerprints of Exist and his time on Heroic with how they approach the CT side, right? And constantly like doing stuff, being very active, taking some calculated gambles, right? When they're a man down. I noticed some of that stuff in the G2 game, which is a good way to play for this team, I think, without a doubt, considering the individuals that they have, right? Like, it's fine to start off like that, and because you will be overdoing it at times, and the opponents will be able to punish you for it at times, but then you can build on top of that. I think that's a good foundation when building your game.
Just like on the wrinkle topic, it's like the game that they just won against FaZe on Ancient. He was playing fucking lights out. Like, I know some of his kills were while saving. There was a few moments like that, but his teammates weren't making it easy on him. Like, as an AWPer on Ancient, we don't traditionally see AWPers fucking going crazy on Ancient. It feels like more like a riflers map because of all like the mid control and the B lane control. Obviously, the AWP, if it gets out a bit of space on A, everyone remembers a Brokey moment, right? But for Wrinkle to, what do you have, 30 plus kills in that? That's one of his best performances in the NIP jersey, and he's had some pretty good performances since he's been at NIP. That's their driving factor for that team. Like, Maxter is one that he had some pretty tough moments in that game that I was watching. There was one round he took a massive risk, but he definitely should have killed Brokey pushing through this smoke. And it was like a 4v2 in NIP's favor that became a 2v2 because Rops had a pretty successful like lurk or bait play where he got a multi-kill. And then Max has actually made a pretty good play, but he's just fucking fluffed that aim. Like miserable, like me shooting, like really just fucked it up big time. And looked a bit silly. So I don't know what the growth of that kid's going to be like. Like, Rez is doing what he needs to do. I think, but Wrinkle's the star over there. There's no doubt about that. There's so many AWPers at the moment that are fucking nuts. It's great to see. Like, I really like the fact that we're getting a lot of impact out of AWPers again. Because when we first started in CS2, whether it was because of the change of game, whether it was because of the Peekers advantage, whatever the fuck it was, right?
Yeah, they all
there was so much worry. Everyone was like, "Oh, the AWP's fucking nerfed." Like, look at Monacy, look at Shiro. Like the Wrinkles constantly having decent performances, right? I think it's maybe more the style of the way that the AWP's being used.
I was gonna say it feels like a lot of AWPers now that we say are like going or that are like doing well, it feels like are like the more aggressive playmaking ones, guys who actually like peek into action instead of just like sitting back and holding angles and trying to be a little bit smarter about it.
You don't want to get swung on in this game. It's fucking over.
Yeah, the AWPers are getting a little wild.
You gotta be, but that's what I like to see. You love to see a bit of it. Love to see a bit of the in your face.
Yeah, like sort of exciting moments.
Who else is here that we haven't spoken about? We didn't touch on G2.
There's nothing really new to talk about FaZe. Is it safe to say with FaZe, the major is everything to this lineup? Like, if they have a disappointing major, that's got to be a lineup change. Are we at that point yet?
Yeah,
I mean, definitely. I could even argue that that's too
late.
Too late, yeah, potentially.
You think like a disappointing Cologne?
I mean, it's tough to make a change on that team. If they like don't make the playoffs as Cologne, that would be a disaster, right? But what do you do?
Exactly. What is your option?
I think it would. I mean, I hate that I'm about to say this, but I feel like just due to age, it would have to be Rain.
I don't think he's the issue in that team by any stretch of the imagination.
I don't either. But you'd want to get younger, wouldn't you? In theory, with this new game. Or are you thinking if your FaZe were right there at the top, like we could make a targeted change and not think about the future quite yet?
I don't know. I'm trying to look at it from their perspective. At the start of the year, once they added Frozen, they were finding success and were so close to consistent success. They were the most consistent team in terms of making the deepest of runs, right? They were making all of these finals consecutively. And they were so close that at that moment, you're thinking it's just the little details, like, oh, we lost this clutch, or we didn't get this pistol round, or we should have won this round with the number advantage, or, whatever. Like that's probably where you're looking. And then now that things simmered out going into the player break, you're probably thinking, okay, yeah, we're burnt out. We couldn't close out those games. We used a lot of energy because we went deep in all of these tournaments. And then you come out on the other side wanting to pick up where you left off, but with a new lease on life. And it just it feels like they're still drained or whatever. It doesn't feel like there's enough output coming from across the team. And whatever the issue is, whether it's individuals not firing as hard as they should be, whether it's their approach to the game, I don't know. But when I watch, I don't feel Carrigan or Rain are out of place. Like Carrigan will have some games where he does really miserably, but I'll watch him in other games and he's doing the in-game leader role. So this is going to be pretty common for most in-game leaders. Sometimes he's just fucking popping off, getting game-defining multi-kills. Like on Ancient the other day, he had this like Tech 9 double entry against, I think it was
G2.
Yeah,
I remember.
Yeah, and it was super important. Like it like helped them get control of that second half, and because they would have been on the way to losing if it wasn't for that round.
And I think Rain had a great game against Cloud9, like a great series against Cloud9 in their opening game. But I think it's also like, it's really hard to talk about FaZe because some of the shit is just uncharacteristic. And also there's the snowball effect in games. For example, in the G2 series on Nuke, so FaZe wins Ancient, the first map, 39. That was G2's pick. You move on to Nuke. FaZe starts on the T side. They lose pistol. They're 2-0 down. In the first gun round, they have a 5v3. You know?
Yeah.
And they're going down towards B, like with 3 guys and 2 players are lurking. That's the round where mellowed gets like some wild kills with the MP9. You know, they don't trade them. And then it's a 2v2 where I think G2 gives FaZe way too much space considering they killed the bomb as well. Like they let them plan. They give up the whole B side. Like mellowed is on ramp, Hunter is on A, just watching vents. FaZe picks up the bomb, plans, Hunter goes down vents, goes decon, mellowed is on ramp, he flashes, blue box for Hunter, he opens the door, kills the guy, they kill the last guy and they win the round. That's like it's the first gun round on 2-0, which if FaZe wins it, G2 has to eco, right? Like you have control of the economy, you can get rolling. Instead, G2 went on a run on the Nuke. It was 4-0, then FaZe won one round, and then they got reset again. So it was 9-1 for G2 on that map. And it's like MR12 punishes you for that shit way more than before. Like, because it's a completely different ball game when doesn't even matter the score, but you need to win rounds like where you don't have any money in the bank and your opponents have like whatever 5, 6, 7K. Like, you know that if they lose this round, they still have everything that they want. That just makes it so difficult to call when you're on the T side, because you can do basically, there's 2 things you can do. You can call a default round and play slower and, play the games with the exchange of utility and gather information in the round and try to, outposition your opponent. But in those rounds, your players have to be able to take initiative and make moves and whatnot. And you need to be able to win some of the fights. And that's going to be, in general, a little bit more difficult when you're playing from behind and your players, not necessarily that your players have less confidence, is that the opponents are playing with more confidence and they're taking some duels and they're peeking and swinging in some situations where they wouldn't if it was, a tie game or they didn't have any money in the bank. So that's like the one thing you can do, like one avenue you can take. The other one is, because maybe that's a little bit predictable, or that's like what they expect, you can try to change the pace and do something quicker, try to take them by surprise, something along those lines. But then if you're wrong, instead of being 4-0 down, you're 5-0 down, you're back on pistols, right? Like it becomes even worse in that sense. It's a little bit of pick your poison sort of a thing. And that's why it's like really I think those rounds stick in the back of the players' heads a little bit more even. Which obviously
if they get 2-0'd, they're about to get 2-0'd. Wow, the score's only about to be 8-6.
I was going to say, it's very early to say that.
Slightly, yeah.
And also by NIP, I mean, we were saying they're not the NIP of old, and that's all fine and well. But I mean, for FaZe, and then like we talked about, it wouldn't really matter all that much. It's more dependent on the Cologne performance. But if they lose to NIP here, then don't make it out of groups in Cologne. Maybe they even look to like make a change there. But it's so hard to make a change. It's so difficult like to do it. You know, we know some teams were trying to make a change during the player break and they just couldn't make it happen during the break. So it's only going to get even more difficult during the season. They might just have to tough it out.
And I mean, they have to pick where to make the change to begin with, like, which, as we could all tell you, is very difficult to go down that list and try and pick it out.
Yeah, I don't even know where they would start. So
I don't either. It depends on the philosophy they want to go with, which is kind of why I was asking about, you know, long term, or are they just trying to win now? That would make a huge difference.
It might have to be like a 2-player type deal, right? It might need to be something a bit more drastic than just plug in the hole and trying to go with one.
You know, if they do end up going down the road of a roster change, though, I feel like one nice thing that FaZe have going for them is like all those players are valuable. You could probably get something cheap with a trade of some kind. You know what I mean? Like, because Cadian is just set on the bench of Team Liquid. Like they don't know how to unload him. Like nobody's taking him. So at least FaZe is like, oh, you want to get rid of Rops? I can think of 5. You know, there's 5 teams that would take Rops in a heartbeat. So you can make a player swap. Yeah,
yeah. This you got me thinking. I was going to mention this before. Magisk, for example, right? I imagine that he's on a fucking hefty wicket from Falcons because he was the first player signed, even though it was off, like unofficial, right? I'm pretty sure he was like the first player that they had on board. Surely for him, he's still only, what is he, like 25 maybe?
Yeah,
Magisk?
something wild like that, yeah.
He's still really young. He's 26, okay. So maybe.
Still young.
It's over for him. It's all over. Yeah. But like he hasn't had necessarily the best output lately, but today he had one of his games that was really strong again. And
but he already turned 26, Chad. That's important.
Okay, all right.
He'll be 27 next year.
Okay. Well, look, my point is, anyway, he's had some up and down moments in recent times, but being in Falcons wouldn't make that easy for anybody, but just because of the nature of that team. For him, surely you're looking to go somewhere else, right? Why would you stay with this project?
I'm with you, except for the fact that I know...
Fucking equal with Rob's game 4 kills with a 5-7. There we go.
I just know that Magisk is the player who talked the most about things outside the game of why he chose Falcons. So, you know, like he talked about, you know, he's gone through his share of like, you know, mental struggles through his career, and he liked the comfort of being with Zonic, who he trusts implicitly, obviously, and the performance coach they brought along with him.
Well, I think at this point, him and Zonic are, you know, attached at the hip.
Package.
I think.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like I don't think he'd leave just because he feels that comfort within that. But I think that would be an awesome move for FaZe, you know?
Yeah, well, that's what I'm thinking. Like, there's so many teams that you could go to that would be
good.
Magus
doesn't leave Falcons. Falcons build FaZe 2.0, you know? Like...
But like, that's the thing. I'm with you.
Just as soon they have the opportunity to do so, which will most likely be after the next major. Like, you know...
Where are you starting, though?
Unless this team is like the best team, because that's for Falcons, they want to be number 1 in the world. They don't want to be top 5. They don't want to be a contender. You know, they want to be the best, and they can bring the best players. I mean, they have the money for it. It's like whether those guys want to come and whether they can make it and all that stuff. But you know, like anything for this current roster of Falcons, unless they're number 1 at the end, you know, December 31st. There's going to be changes to that roster. And Magisk, I think, is the only player who's safe.
Did we talk about this like last episode, or did someone ask me this in the stream, or this has come up at some point recently regarding Nico not joining Falcons? And I think the question that was posed my way was, did Nico turning down Falcons set a precedent?
In what way? That
you mean that other players also...
have no problem turning them down?
Yes.
No. I think what's hurting them the most is they have nothing to attract players to them at the moment. They have no discernible positive results, no discernible improvement in their gameplay.
Yeah, but they're meant to have all the money in the world.
Here's the problem. That at the time, Falcons are not a partner team. And there was one more year of partner leagues and stuff, and that was also before you knew Blast was going to sell 4 more spots, right? So it was a little bit like, what would they have been able to play? you might have not been able to play like Katowice, for example, depending on what the roster would have looked like, you know, in its whole. So you would be missing like some tournaments potentially this year, or having to play like Falcons did ESL Challenger tournaments, right? So I think that was also a detractor for some of the players as well, and that's not going to be an issue next year because, you know, there's no partner league. Sure, there's the rankings that are going to play a big part, but then the players carry over, right? Some of the points when they move.
That's a good point. But I think we've already kind of hit the nail on the head of what Falcons would do. Like, it doesn't make sense for them to make a change now when they're thinking, okay, after this next major cycle, like we have the bank. Let's open up the purse and let's just get the team we want. Let's get everyone. Let's make another run at Nico. Let's make another run at monacy. Let's go to all the stars who are performing at the moment and see if we can get them.
Yeah,
like that's got to be a game plan.
For sure. Oh, for sure. So there'll be disruptors in back-to-back years going into the same period of time.
Unfortunately, I don't think Dupree has a chance to stay on the team because of his age.
Yeah.
I don't think even, you know, Zonic, well, he did already replace him one time. I don't think he has
I don't know. Would you keep Dupree or Madden right now?
Well, I was going to say like that Dupree doesn't have a chance, and that everyone else outside of Magus, whose spot I think is safe, and you would want him on a super team to be that anchor guy. You know, I think he is one of the most underrated players out there when you look at the Vitality runs and especially the Astralis runs. But I think everyone else, meaning Sunpai as well, Sunpai probably can't save his spot no matter what he does, because if, you know, they could get
monacy,
someone like monacy, right? Like there's, you know, that's a no-brainer. And then probably like Madden and Snappy perhaps have a chance. You know, Snappy as being the in-game leader of that squad, and Madden, if he can have some sort of a role as more of a supportive player, and like, because he's had some better individual performances. But that's also hard to believe with the budget that Falcons have, that they won't just go for a bigger name, if
go
not
for
anything else.
Yeah.
You know, so but I think I think about G2, one of you guys mentioned it a little bit. I think it was interesting in the FaZe series. We saw them veto Inferno in the second phase.
Yeah.
And even though they won Inferno against NIP, it was like 13-11 or something. It was kind of close, and you can tell it's still a little bit iffy, like it still needs more work. So that's, you know, interesting how their map pool has changed with the addition of Snacks and Malbs. But Mirage is looking super strong. It's like, so, you know, obviously it's a different team, different players, but you're like, you know, you didn't.
Why couldn't we have had this all along?
Why was this your perma ban? It's like, it's okay that it's maybe you don't love it or something like that, you know, but did it really have to be the fucking perma ban over maps like Vertigo and Overpass when they were in the pool? Like, come on, bro. Like, because just you can see even, and I'm not making, you know, Hunter playing a little bit better in this lineup. He's had some different positions as well and whatnot, but Mirage has always been a map that he's fucking loved, even in those crazy days before he joined G2, right? Valiance and Crazy.
I think I got your answer though, Yanko. Because I agree with you. Like, I think when we think about the best players on G2, especially in the old roster, that it makes sense for them to play Mirage. But I think the reason that they probably shied away from it and went into the Overpasses or the Vertigos of the world is because on those maps, you can hide your liabilities a little bit easier. On Mirage, your site anchors are going to be targeted a lot. And if they're not getting a kill or delaying long enough or not doing anything of any value as the B anchor or as the A anchor, your mid guys can be getting mid control every round and winning out that space and having good like re-engages and stuff. And you still can be completely fucked. Like, whereas this new team having Malbs and Snacks anchoring the sites, that's one of the big things that we spoke about with these two additions was the firepower upgrade. They're going to get theirs, right? And that dent makes it easier for the other three to actually be able to play in. I think that's, you know, it just comes down to something as simple as that. Like, because that's the thing. They should have been playing Mirage. That's just the way it should have gone. But I guess they were trying to hide their liabilities.
I wish it was that deep, Chad, but yeah, I think more so it just came down to like Hooksy didn't really like the map, and they played it at the very beginning when Nexer joined, and they played it online, and they had like abysmal results in 3 online series, and they were just like, fuck this map, and never came back to it, like never gave it never gave it more thought into, hey, maybe just with the players we have, we should put the effort into figuring it out. Like, we need to be able to play this map. It's crazy with like monezy and Nico and Hunter that we're not playing this map, no matter the other two guys that we have on the team, right? Yeah. Because the win condition was always like, these three guys need to carry us, you know? So give them a map that they fucking like, that they can carry you on, right?
Yeah.
So, and that was also the start of CS2, when they were, you know, when they added Nex and all this shit, like people still were terrible at the game, especially Nico and Hunter, right? So I think it was that. And listen, also them, I mean, it's Spirit and FaZe. It's not fucking, it's good Mirage teams in reality, or at least like good teams with good players. Like just beating them on the map counts for something, at least in my book. So I'm fucking loving it. They don't need to, you know, I don't think they're the best Mirage team. You know, I think obviously Navi is, and they might not even be top 3, but I think it could be one of those maps for them that they can always fight on.
They can compete, yeah.
Yes, because of the nature of the map, right? Like you can have you can create situations on the map where your stars can bail you out. Right, like you can get the bomb down on A and have like a 2v4 or a 2v3 or a 3v4, and then someone on the lurk makes a great play, or monezy gets more aggressive on the op, searching for fights and gets you 2 more kills, right? And then the opponent save, like that kind of shit. And that's all that's how it fucking is, or it should be with those players. That's the situations you should look for, and maps where you can create as many of them as possible. But isn't that the way that FaZe approached the game,
Yanko? Like, yes. Isn't that's the goal of FaZe?
Yeah,
but they're struggling in. I'm just. This is kind of not to compare to G2, but more. Well, no, I guess it is to compare to G2. But why are FaZe struggling in that regard? Like,
I think because their individuals are struggling a little.
Yeah, the players not playing as well as they have to for that to work.
And it's a combination of the players not playing as well individually, but just them not working as well as a group either. Like there's these breakdowns in rounds where they have advantages that are just baffling for a team of FaZe's caliber and the individuals that they have. But I think, you know, when you're on a team, this shit happens when you start losing these rounds. For example, let's say you have a problem with anti-eco rounds, right? Anti-force buy rounds. You know, for whatever reason, you just have struggled with these rounds, like you're losing them or whatever. Then these rounds are automatically going to become more stressful for you. Like you're going to make a big deal out of these rounds, even when it's necessarily not, even when you're in a good situation, because you know you have a tendency to lose them, right? And then it's just a vicious cycle where that extra pressure and the extra stress just sort of becomes the reason why these rounds are getting close. If you were just chill and just, you know, playing these rounds as
when you begin to fear the deagle.
Yeah, and you start to get paranoid. You start to get paranoid about everything. You know, oh, watch out for a scout here. Watch out that they're stacked here and stacked there. You know, like you just need to play whatever.
Shoot him in the face with an AK-47.
Yeah.
Fuck your scout.
Which is probably something that NIP should look into, considering they lost 2 fucking anti-ecos. This Inferno both times Rops wrecked them with a 5-7.
5-7s.
Let's talk a bit about Cologne. So we're going to do episodes from there live, I imagine, when we find some time.
Yeah.
But we're in the same hotel as we were last time, so that's a bit not necessarily the best space. Anyway, we'll work it out. That's not the point. But we got the play-ins and then the play-ins into the main stage, or don't call it that, or Carmack will fire you. And then obviously the 6-team playoff. But all of it's best of 3, so that's at least something as a nice adjustment this time round. Hopefully next year they can work out how to do 8-team playoffs again, so we don't have to fucking have these nonsense formats. But anyway, I digress.
We almost did it again. For fuck's sake.
Well, sometimes you got to, we should mention heroic shaking hands instead of doing slaps. I quite like that. Got to mention Saw's great performance in the first series they played against Complexity. It's been mentioned now. So now we can talk about what do we got here? Yeah, you were talking about some of these juicy games, Jason. Eternal Fire Falcons was one you mentioned. What was another game that you were looking at?
I like that one. Liquid Pain, I think, is a really interesting one. I think the BO3 is actually a really nice service to Liquid that's been swapped into instead of a BO1. Just because, one game against fucking Big Uzera might be able to just send your tournament into tailspin. But I think that's going to be a really cool close series and a pretty, I think, a manageable test for Liquid after they're showing at Blast, whatever it ends up being. Even to a certain extent, Furia Imperial, just to keep getting a look at what this Furia team is going to involve and how Skulls is going to evolve within that team, I think is pretty cool.
So it's win 2 best of 3s and you're through, essentially, right? So if you lose your opening game, you drop to a lower bracket, and in a lower bracket, then you need to win 2, right? So it's still 2 regardless of where you find yourself. So I think Complexity should make light work of a team like Alternate Attacks, even though they struggled against Heroic in that first series, but they made good on it today. Eternal Fire is a team for me that's just treading water. They haven't been able to follow up on the success they found earlier in the year. If anything, they're looking shakier. Wakadia hasn't really stepped into being the second coming of Christ that he was meant to be. So that's not great over there. Heroic, we don't know what's going to happen with Dexter, so that's a bit of a problem. MIBR have also stalled. They're a Brazilian team that I think, there was some promise with some of those names, but they feel like they've stalled in recent times as well.
DWC was awful for them. They got spanked both games.
Bet Boom has names that get me excited, but they never play any Counter-Strike that's exciting. That might seem counterintuitive because they like to keep up with the patented Nafany rushing. But other than that, they're just a bit So from that, so from the top 4.
Well, and 9Z on the other side of that Bet Boom matchup with the Dallas that they had. Let's see if they can build off that success.
They always surprise me, 9Z, because the players, I'm going to be honest, some of them are pretty fucking mid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of them are pretty fucking mid.
I mean, I think
it sounds horrible to say, but it just is.
I think actually they overperform, maybe. I don't know. Because you have guys
probably.
DGT and Martinez, right? And Max from the in-game leader role as well, picks up the slack. I mean, 9Z is number 12 on HLTV ranked in the world.
Isn't that crazy?
That's kind of wild.
It is crazy. Yeah, then I guess they should be beating a Bet Boom. But that game for me is like a 50-50 match, right? So that's something where I guess if 9Z want to earn their rank, they need to win that series. But if we break it up into the 4 teams who are going to then could match up in the qualifying games, is there any of these that seem easier to call? Should Complexity be the favorite to sweep their part against Alternate Attacks and then Eternal Fire Falcons?
I think if you're Complexity, you have to feel like you're again the on paper favorite to go through that.
Yeah, it's exactly they are, but you can't trust them with shit.
Exactly. That's why I said on paper.
They lost the game to Heroic with Saw playing. How? Okay, they beat them the second time around.
They won today, so
they got it back. But that's why you can't trust them.
Yeah, but that's the thing that you feel like that's been the thing with this Complexity roster. That's the story for them. They fail miserably, and then they have this flash in the pan that just you're like, wow. They show you how it could be potentially, and then it's back to suck for a couple of events. And then again, it's just as about you're like, okay, surely now is the time for a change or whatever. And then all of a sudden they step it up and have a great performance. You're like, wait, this can actually work. Let's give it a shot. And then they don't. It doesn't manifest.
Well, I'm going to say that the fact that they lost and then they won against Heroic with the coach, it washes away the loss, right? Well,
it's better than the other way around, that's for sure.
Yes, I'll let them off the hook. But then, to be fair, the game against OG was also close. They could have lost Ancient, which was the first map of that series, and then they lost Vertigo, which they picked. So I think that's why they didn't pick Vertigo again when they played against Heroic the second time.
They lost it to Heroic as well, no?
Yeah. But they picked it in losing it. Yanko, losing to a coach is one thing. Losing to OG is a complete other thing.
Who has
OG have to be one of the worst teams managed in the history of Counter-Strike, and for some reason it's never fucking spoken about. They've been dog shit literally forever.
European OG.
Their entire existence.
European EG.
Yes, actually, that's a great comparison. Yeah. But if Complexity can have like a decent showing, not just get completely blown out by Donk and the boys, then I might go into Cologne with a little bit of gusto behind them.
I mean, even as favorites, no matter what they look like, I think there's still, I think Eternal Fire and Falcons can both upset them in a series.
Yes.
You know, that potential is always going to be there no matter what fucking happens for the rest of Blast.
Okay, so that's not clear. Like that section of the play-in bracket's not clear.
Next one's not clear either. Bet Boom 9Z, we said 50-50. Hard to kind of tell.
If
Dexter's there, heroic.
I would go heroic without a doubt.
Okay.
I think the quality of
probably would too.
The quality of player from top to bottom, they should cover their bases in that. But if Dexter's not there, well,
you still have them, but by a smaller margin.
No, I don't have them at all in that case. How could they qualify? No offense to Saw, like he did have a good series the first time they faced him, but it just the team cannot function without. They brought Dexter in because they didn't want to have a team with 5 riflers. Like, that's a bit of a joke at Nikodos's expense. Sorry, Nikodos, but he wasn't very good on the AWP. Right, he was better as a rifler. And now they can't even get their AWPer in the country where the tournament... It's like it's a liability at this point. So if he's not there, then I think they need to really reconsider this Dexter situation.
And he has such an impactful style of AWPing that it's a style that you really miss when you don't have it, because he gets you some huge swing kills, some huge picks in awkward situations. Yeah, he's a big piece of the puzzle. So yeah, I'm with you. If Dexter's there, heroic should be sweeping that little section. But if not, who the fuck knows?
No matter who Liquid plays, they play a Brazilian team. Yeah. If they beat Pain, then they play another Brazilian team. This is a crazy little Brazilian barbecue gauntlet here. Oh, this is a juicy little section. I like the look of that. It's tantalizing. Try, obviously, the new addition over there at Imperial. See if he can live up to the hype that was around him a little while ago. I think
I hope that's
now
Liquid
a Furia
Furia.
fan. Yeah, me too. Yanko's now a Furia fan because they had let Fallen do what he wants.
What do you mean now, Chad?
Now you're a Furia fan.
What do you mean now? I've always been a Furia fan.
He's been the biggest Furia fan.
The changes I've called for was because of it. Because I want to see Furia succeed. Not one single player on the team succeed, but what would be the best for the organization. They finally are doing the things that would be best for them. I think it's also interesting because you have that mini bracket of Fury Imperial, Pain, and Liquid. So you could have Fury Imperial, and then whoever loses that game could potentially go up against Pain in the lower bracket to be eliminated from the tournament, which is kind of wild. You go to the biggest tournament of the year outside of the majors, and you just play the teams from your region.
Exactly, that's
both
so
times.
Insane. Like, that might happen with Mongols, the FlyQuest, if FlyQuest and Mongols can win their games. So I need to be right back 1 sec. Someone's at my door.
Yeah, you're good.
That sounded like it wasn't someone who he expected to be at his door.
Exactly. That's not a food order. That's just like, what the fuck is this knocking? Maybe it's Henry who's asking for some fucking eggs to cook or some shit.
Yeah, eggs to cook at 8 p.m., Jason. That's definitely what's happening.
You can have eggs anytime, baby.
Bro, if NIP loses another eco, I mean, it's raining the site with the USP. Oh my God, it's 1v1. Kerrigan versus Wrinkle. Wrinkle is just going to aggressively overpeak, probably, without even going for the bomb plant. Okay. He's gonna
Kerrigan lurking up. Oh, Kerrigan's so mad he didn't get that kill. Oh my God. Kerrigan's probably like, what the fuck? If that's Rain or Rops, that spam gets the kill.
Yeah, exactly. I think Wrinkle
He's like, why doesn't my fucking spam get the kill?
Wrinkle will probably blow an aneurysm or something if he lost that. Or if they lost another anti-eco, the third one of the half.
This last little section of the play-ins, Yanko, we'd have Mongols in that same situation as like Complexity, where it's like you should be the hands down favorite. You should get out of this group. Like overwhelming odds, especially with the way we've been talking about Mongols for most of this year and the rise that we've seen them on. Losing this group would be a huge, I don't know, what would you, stub of the toe, obstacle, issue?
The problem was like they didn't end the last season on a high. They won Yala Compass and then they went to Jean Compig and didn't make it into the playoffs, right?
Yeah.
Then they come to EWC, they lose to G2 2-0 in a close series, right? And G2 who went on to go to the finals and are seeming pretty solid at the time, but then they couldn't make it out of the lower bracket as well. They lost to Furia. They decided to play Nuke against Furia. I don't know why. And then they go to this tournament in India. they win the tiebreaker in the groups, in the playoffs, they get to the final, and then they get kind of spanked by 3D Max in the final, which is a game they really shouldn't be losing. You know? But okay, 3D Max seems to be on the rise. Maybe it was just their day, that's fine. But
we saw them at Pro League. They didn't look half bad.
Yeah, but here at Cologne, this is where Mongols just need to take care of business. If they are really a top 10 team and they're the real deal, right? They need to beat Saw, and then they need to beat whoever comes, whether it's FlyQuest or Big. Like, they just need to take care of business, because that's how good they've kind of looked, and that's what we think they're capable of. So that's what needs to transpire. Meanwhile, what's transpiring is NIP has oh my god, NIP is going to throw a 5v3, bro. Their match point, 12-11 up on Inferno, 5v3, they're into B. Then Isaac decides to push even deeper on B, take another fight, loses, 4v3, then the Lurker dies, and now it's a 3v3.
They got this.
If
the
they
double
lose
dark.
this round, fucking fire everyone. All right, Wrinkles.
Wrinkles got it, baby.
Let's see.
That's the series.
It's over. FaZe is out.
Shit.
FaZe is out. And it's a rematch, G2 NIP.
Dude, this makes Cologne so much more important, I think, for FaZe.
Yeah, you feel like if they don't...
Look at Frozen's face, dude. He's just like, what the fuck just happened?
Oh my god. I can't believe they lost. I just came back and I saw the celebrations.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
As we were saying, like, if you don't make playoffs as FaZe in Cologne, right? Like...
They got 2-0'd by Nip.
Yeah, buddy.
That is unbelievable.
It'll make you feel like shit.
Oh, mate. What do we even get? I don't know. Magisk for Frozen.
Magix is not leaving Falcons, bro.
Yeah, I know. I'm living in a fantasy world right now.
The idea is hooked in his brain. It's just going to sit in there.
The problem is you can't really... How are you going to... in reality, the only player you can think of replacing is Rain, first and foremost, and then maybe Carrigan. Or if he wants to, like, stop playing and become the coach of that team or something along those lines. Because Rops, even if he is in a slump, because of the peaks that he's had and how young he still is, you're not considering replacing him. Maybe Brokey, but he's also been there, maybe even best player in the last couple of months, in CS2. He's always like a loose cannon, a bit of a wild card, at times, but that shouldn't warrant him being replaced from the team. And I agree with you that it's not necessarily that Rain is the problem, but it's like at some point you tried so many things internally to change and it hasn't resulted in an improvement in performance. Like, the only thing that's left is a roster change to shake things up.
And I mean, the other side too is like, I mean, we're a little over a year into CS2, brand new game. Like, that's where in my head, I'd be like, we got to go young. We got to get one of these young stars that can potentially show something special that we can say he's going to be with us for the next 4 or 5 years.
Because, for FaZe, it is like win the tournament or bust. It's not losing to fucking NIP, So I think for Cologne, it's also because Cologne is what it is, right? Like, that the players will be motivated. Like, that's where on paper they're supposed to put their best foot forward, right? And show their best face. Even the players, you're counting on guys stepping up. Just that little 5% that they're missing. They're going to be a little bit extra focused, a little bit extra motivated because of what Cologne means to the players. So then with all of that, if you fail, it's going to be really tough to just keep playing out the season, because it's, first the showdown that they would have to play after that, and then Pro League, right? These events that are not extremely prestigious, not a lot on the line at them. So I don't know. It's going to be fucking tough.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm not lost, but there's just a lot in the Counter-Strike world at the moment where there's a lot of teams who are all battling, not for the number one spot, but just to keep their head above water, it feels like at certain points in time. So I don't think we're in like a seismic shift type of moment, but we're seeing things shifting around a lot from what we thought only 6 months ago. Like, Complexity was in the final of Sydney, and then they had some other okay results, and then you go into the play rate with them winning Jönköping over a bunch of like other tier 2 teams, and then you still go into this, and you think, what the fuck? Like, where is everybody? How is everybody matched up? And maybe it is. I don't know. I don't want to say. Oh, do
you think it feels weird because there's not a top team? We go into every single event saying they should win the trophy. Like the favorite was Spirit. Now it's going to be Na'Vi as the number 1 team. FaZe has been the favorite in a couple events. Vitality was kind of knocking on that door. We just have like a bunch of teams that like can compete for the trophy, but no clear thing at the top that feels like it's stabilizing the whole scene. Like there's nobody that everyone's chasing. It feels like everyone's trying to stabilize themselves.
I'm torn between a few things, right? So one is there's elite level organizations that need to be competitors all the time, right? Like your G2s, your FaZes, your Liquids, I guess Vitality, I think maybe Na'Vi, right? They're like legacy elite level orgs that always need to be competitive within the top 10 or like in that, like being able to break through and get the trophy. So those guys have their own little battle. And then there's what you're talking about of we're not in an Astralis era. We're not in a period of time where there is like a really clear 1 or clear 1 and 2. It could be almost anybody at any given event. So then what are we looking to base that off? Well, with some of these teams who lean more into individuals, then we go, okay, well, what is the ceiling of this team? And we try and quantify how good they can be at any given moment by if they hit the ceiling / peak, which is very difficult to do. Then you have a team like Na'Vi who is playing some really good team-based Counter-Strike, but then has these crazy pop-off performances from some of the players that you might not be expecting for the roles that they play, like a Bit and a JL. You have Spirit, who has this fucking little hell demon of a kid who can just take over games with, or at least he did at the start of it. Like, I don't know. It's just, there's no best way to win at the moment. We're not chasing like the perfection that another team is putting out there. There's too many different teams who could win on any given Sunday at the moment. And we're also in flux of just coming out of the player break. So we don't even have the certainty of how the vetoes are going to look or where the strengths in the map pools are and whatnot. So there's just so much in flux constantly at the moment.
And you know what? I'm not even going to call this a disservice because I think we're all respectful, rational human beings, but we haven't even mentioned mouz.
Yeah. Well,
and they're a pretty damn good team.
It's because they're not at Blast, so we're not seeing them right now. And they lost to Na'Vi at.
Well, yeah, but where would we put them in like the hierarchy of Cologne? If we think probably going into this, like you'd probably put Na'Vi and Spirit in that S tier of teams that you would be expecting to be in the finals. Then you'd put like Vitality, FaZe, G2, who are all kind of like that. To
be honest, I'd put G2 with Na'Vi and Spirit. I'd put those 3 in one group, and then I would put mouz, Vitality, FaZe in the next. But I mean, even FaZe right now is like, I would put mouz in Vitality then, right after that. And then I would put like FaZe, Astralis.
Okay.
Maybe after that, and then that's it. Everyone else is like whatever. Because for me, mouz is
question
just
though, Yanko, how you can possibly put G2 so high.
Well, I think it depends on what happens in their game. I mean, they will play NIP, so even if they beat NIP, but that would mean they played the final of their first event and lost to Na'Vi, who became the number 1 team in the world, and then they beat FaZe NIP 2 times to win. I think it's because they've looked solid enough in their games, like as a team with this lineup. It seems like how they set it up fits the players enough, like it's working, like the role adjustments that Malbs and Hunter needed to make. It's sort of, they've managed, they can play on a high enough level by doing that. And then on top of that, just the individual star power, right? Like, okay, Monesi was a little bit off in Riyadh. Here he is lights out, and you can see what it means for them, right? And they've also, the core of that team has won it. They're the defending champions.
Yeah, but
like they've been there.
Yeah,
like, that's why I can't. The only reason why I don't put mouz in the same group is because they haven't done it on that big of a stage.
Are you just waiting for mouz to win a big event on the stage?
Of course. Yeah, of course. As soon as they do it, I'm putting them in that boat every single time, because we've seen it also unravel for them at times in these scenarios, right? Even if you look at the Chengdu final, for example, look at FaZe. Like FaZe was right there for the taking. Look at their performances after that tournament. That probably isn't, FaZe playing much better at that tournament compared to other ones. It's more mouz dropping the ball, where they were, FaZe was ready to be beaten already at that time. Those are like small things. There are small details, right? Like, you would probably, maybe not at the time during EWC, but Navi and mouz are kind of there. Was that also the first time they played against each other, or was that two different teams that happened with?
Say that again.
Like mouz versus Navi at EWC. Like, I don't think they've.
mouz, wasn't it G2 versus Spirit? Like mouz versus Donk?
No, mouz Navi played at Pro League in the.
Okay, yeah, no. So final. Then it was someone else. But yeah, and that game they got thrashed by Navi after winning the first map, right? So I think that's the only reason why. Because for me, when I look at the biggest of tournaments and the biggest of stages, like, I always sort of give favor to teams and players who have done it again. That's why I would have liked to put FaZe in that group as well, but you can't with how much they flopped at the start of this season, like losing to NIP and stuff. And the end of last season wasn't strong for them either. So it's not the FaZe that we're used to seeing. Vitality, maybe if like things align for them, they could potentially make a run, but for whatever reason, they seem to fall up. They fell apart in the final against G2 at Dallas. They fell apart against mouz in the grand final of Pro League. I don't even remember they had that. Yeah, they fell apart against VP at Blast. They're having that big lead on second map after winning the first map, I think. And after that, it was all,
yeah.
So you can't trust those guys. Like Spirit, you can trust that they are going to be solid. Really, like someone's gonna have to beat them. They will not really lose to themselves. That's pretty much the case that now you can make for Navi. Not so much for G2, but G2 has that X factor a little bit more than other teams, right? Like that can bail them out in some of those tough situations.
Well, here's how this can work, right? So obviously we only know the 8 teams who are in groups A and B for Cologne. But we already said Navi, G2, and Spirit, and you had those 3 as your 3, right? So whoever tops that group will be high seed from Group A semi-final, straight through. Whoever comes second will play the quarterfinal against the team who comes third from Group B, right? And that will put them on the same side of the bracket as the team who comes first from Group B, which could be different. We could have other names come through from the play-in and kind of change this. But that's not coming second in Group A is only going to be possible for one of G2 or Spirit, right? Because they have to play each other in the upper round, the second round of that, right? So that means that those teams, whoever loses out of those guys, is going to have to run the gauntlet of the lower. And that's assuming that Navi beats the teams they're meant to beat and they make it through to the upper final. And then if they play against Spirit and they lose, whatever, right? But who knows how that's going to unfold. But it's going to be one of those names who have to be coming third in the group, and they'll stay on the same side of the bracket as the team who came first in the group. So we might not get to see like a G2 Spirit final. We might not get to see a Spirit Navi final, depending on how that group works out. Whereas the other side, this is where things are going to, unless a FaZe, a Vitality, or a mouz are actually able to break through. Like, it would be really good for mouz to be able to win the group outright, and the team that they beat in the upper final being FaZe. Because I think that would do great for their confidence, because they always lose to FaZe, right? I know it won't be a stage match, but it'll be a match with
a lot of pressure,
especially for them, right? With the little brother syndrome that they have going on right now. So if they'll be able to win that, maybe that unlocks them. I know the stage is a different beast, but that's where they'd have to go out there and then make good in their semi-final on the Saturday. And maybe then they can break through and actually show that type of Counter-Strike we saw in the best of 5s in the studio games. And then, okay, fuck yeah, like we can get behind that. But otherwise, if we don't get, like, if Liquid continues to play decent, then it would be great to have them slot into Group B from the play-ins because, okay, now we have another name. So we're looking at the names from the play-ins. We're going to get 8 teams. How many of these teams do we think from the play-ins could even make a dent on the playoffs? None of them really, right? Maybe Mongols on a good day, but they're like at the moment, I said treading water for eternal fire. I think Mongols are treading water as well. Maybe not like they're not in the same pool, but they're also treading water.
That's what I was going to say. Like the play-in seems way less menacing this time around. Like who are the teams that you think can make a dent from the play-in realistically? Like
I don't agree with that entire. Like I feel like I could have a list of names that could. I mean, depending on the size of the dent you're looking for, right? But I think there's plenty of teams in the play-ins that can do like an upset at some point of the group stage that could throw a bracket into disarray or throw a team's run into a little bit of an X factor. I think complexity still has that factor, and if they show up to a good best of 3, Eternal Fire has that as well. I mean, you get heroic with Dexter, he could cause some
even
chaos.
After everything, you'll still put complexity there. It's crazy.
I think, look, if they show up on a good day and have a good best of 3 against,
they might, I mean, I will give it actually to complexity. If they make it out of the play-in, they will win their first best of 3 in groups and then lose 2 games and be out. That's probably what will happen. That would be like typical complexity. Like just fuck up the bracket by sending like, I don't know, Na'Vi to the lower bracket or some shit. And then Astralis will beat them to make the playoffs, right? And then you'll have G2 and Na'Vi in the lower bracket, or Spirit and Na'Vi in the lower bracket fighting for 1 spot in the playoffs. That would be Complexity's legacy at IEM Cologne 2024.
Well, I'll say as like an addendum to that too, because to be fair, we also haven't seen that complexity for some time. I think the last time they beat like one of those like really effective tier 1 teams was back at Pro League. You know, it's been a while. Since then, they've been losing to mouz, losing to Liquid, losing to Fnatic. You know, they've had some rough losses as well since then. So, look, I think if there's a good day, there's a chance for a best of 1 upset. I don't see them making any deep run, but heroic with Dexter can cause some chaos in a series. Furia will find out if they're going to be able to build, if they have a map pool to be able to do it, but they certainly have the players. Liquid have beaten
play Nuke.
Yeah, exactly.
That's all we know.
That's all we have on them. Liquid has beaten Na'Vi and they've beaten VP at this tournament, so I don't think they're exactly a team that you can just write off as someone that can't cause chaos in the group stage. Mongols, as we already mentioned. So, I mean, there's a few dangerous elements in there, but it doesn't feel like there's a team in the play-ins that can be knocking on the door of the playoffs. You know, like none of those teams I mentioned you'd expect to be playing to like take a playoff spot away.
Yeah, exactly. And I think for Furia as well, like the way they've, you know, did the TWC, I think definitely it would be the next good step would be to make the next stage, to make it out of the play-in here. But it's a bit of a tough draw. I mean, sure, Imperial first domestic matchup and then playing the winner of Pain Liquid, whoever it is. It's not an easy game either, but I think they have to do it. Sort of, they have to get it done for their sake to keep building on the good first showing of the lineup, right, and keep building up that confidence on the team. But realistically, man, you look at all these teams. It's like the teams that I don't think will do much, even if they get to the next stage. FlyQuest, Big, Saw, MIBR, BetBoom, 9Z. Imperial, I don't know, Eternal Fire or Falcons, like maybe if they but Falcons haven't like I can't put Falcons there either. They had another player break. I mean, they didn't play WC, they had time to practice. Again, they will come and lose 2 times to Astralis. It's like, you know, I don't know, maybe Astralis is just that good, but we'll see. Eternal Fire, again, they would have to get it done to restore some of the faith that we've had in them. It's just all these teams are really unconvincing at the moment. Like this is their stage to sort of prove it, to show us where they're at and if they can actually be one of those teams or not.
I think too, just as a last point on this play-in stage, I think we should probably give a little bit more credit and I'll give a little bit more credit and a little bit more eyeballs to Pain, because that team just seems to surprise with how well Big Uzera plays individually, and QZ is also playing well for them, and they almost made it to the playoffs in Copenhagen at the major. So, I mean, this team kind of comes out of nowhere and surprises everybody with how good they're able to be, despite the fact that we don't see them super frequently on these kinds of stages. So even going against Liquid, I think that's a team that you could look to have like an upset. I think that's the team with the most potential to upset their little corner of the bracket, of the play-in bracket, is Pain.
But do you think if you're a new team like Liquid, you underestimate anybody?
Nope. You absolutely don't.
Yeah, so like I'm not.
But
saying
I think Pain can be that good, you know.
Okay, all right. Well, there you go. Yeah, fair enough. Well, that you've got some high praise. They've got that Snow kid in there, who I remember seeing like a couple years ago when he was like 15 or whatever, being tweeted about as the next big thing from Brazil. He's in that roster now, but we'll see how he plays. I haven't watched any of the Pain games in a little while.
I haven't watched any of the recent ones. I just, now after watching Big U's era in Pain when Skulls was in it for Paris and then in Copenhagen, it's like, you know what? The guy's got something where he figures it out. Like incredible individually, and then he's able to throw some lineups together that can do some damage. I don't know how much it'll be this time around, but they're handling business back home. If you kind of scroll through, like they're not really getting challenged back home at the moment. So, whatever that means to you.
I want to
let the record show that Jason is putting his hat in the ring for Pain, everybody. If they do well,
I'll put
Jason
mine in
told
for
you.
9Z. I think they can like take that next step. That's what you should expect of them after the Dallas performance. Then they won the Fire League thing that was where in Argentina or somewhere in South America, another land. They beat Fnatic in the final, right? So why not?
And I'm going to keep my hat because I don't want to give it up. It's pretty hard.
You don't want your hat in any rings.
You need. Well, yeah, you don't want it in the ring. You want it on your head. So that's right. My hat's going to be
beautiful.
All
right.
Should we go?
Yeah, let's go.
All right.
Yeah.
Big vs Navi live now.